theory of everything. And these are questions, and some people call them hard questions because they can't get to the core. They only know their inner self, and they can touch their inner soul or know that there's something inside that stays in the body, but where does it go once we leave here? And some of us that have had out-of-body near-death, they say that's not possible that we died in the medical terms or scientific terms because we're still here. But maybe it's just the fact that we had electronic and intuition that was important to all of us. So right now, how do we want to do this? What do we want to do, and how do we want to have separate divisions? So, Ken, you've had an idea to have a chain of command, but should we have a different division for, like, Tommy and the UFO organization with the different groups in social media, an alien contact organization maybe with Janet, who's got one of our domains set that way up, or I don't know. And MAD and I started Cosmos Connection and Allied Command here with you. What do you think, Ken? What's your idea?
Well, I'm actually kind of in favor of the three separate organizations that we can all meet together, and brings in the full diameter, if you will, of the whole organization, and I think that would work fine. To be in each one has its own chain of command or its own organization, and then you as the Supreme Allied Commander, as I like to call you, would be the one to try to hold us and keep us all together. Because, for instance, I've had people contact me and being concerned that I was going to be involved with a metaphysical or a science fiction or non-reality organization, that it might take away from the record documentations and experience I've had as one of the first 4 civilian astronauts and all the things we did during the Apollo program. Yet I don't see a connection or a problem with that kind of connection, so long as we're working towards education, learning more about who and what we are as physical beings on this planet, as well as finding out who and what we may have been in existence in another plane or another dimension, what have you. So I'd love to have a lot of inputs or people to make contact back with us, and let me know what you think about all three separate groups with the different ideas. It's not different ideas; it's a different approach to our existence and what we've gone through, and to become in a reality, so we can understand what we've been through. And I'm all in favor of finding out just exactly who I am, where I've been, what I've done in the past, as long as what I'm doing now is something worthwhile to all dimensions. Is that confusing enough?
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point, because Bob Dean was in SHAPE. That's Supreme Headquarters, Allied Powers in Europe, okay? And he brought out the force of the extraterrestrials, especially when I didn't go to the International UFO Congress, but I had a talk with him, same as Clifford Stone, a lot of people that were involved over there. And the Supreme Allied Headquarters in Europe, it was in Europe, close to Paris. They were formed after the headquarters for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, Allied Command Operations, but they also have under NATO after World War II, the Allied Command Operations, which I didn't know the ACO is responsible for planning and execution of all alliance operations. Now, I find this coincidental but strange, and I'm just going to tell you guys, all three of you guys. There's Ken here, Mad Painter Thomas, and Tommy. I found it odd that I had a husband named Tommy, and my best friend, Tommy Hawwksblood, and then a Mad Painter is Thomas Becker. There's 3 Toms in my life. And then there's Alien Contact Organization that we started here in 2014 as ACO, which was also Ascension Center Organization, ACO. And I've had that with the government for years and years, way back. I have TJ Mars ACIR, ACE, and ACO. But they have ACT, Allied Command Transformation, through this. And it's funny because Allied Command Operations, International Organization on Britannica, now all these have different groups, and they're more government interrelated out of the Supreme headquarters in Europe. But I had no clue that the Allied Command transformation logo or any of that even existed through the NATO Norfolk housing or Supreme Allied Commander that had anything to do with our group. Or it doesn't. It has absolutely nothing to do with it. However, those that were in space called themselves the Allied Command, and then the Supreme Allied Command was over them. Now, the Allied Command, I guess what we're going to do is separate Metaphysical Group with Dr. Rick Allen Miller on Saturdays. And what we'll do is maybe have Thomas Becker, who has formed the Allied Command Organization magazine every 2 months. We can have a separate for space, and NASA, and people like Story Musgrave and Ken Johnston and all those that have done 3D reality and astronauts the way we understand them in school. And down here in Florida, where we have Kennedy and other manned spacecraft, and then Johnston, we can talk about that, and we can talk about the Allied Command operations over in Europe if you want, or the top Allied Command NATO forces and how that got to be, and the two strategic commands they had in the military and why all that really happened, as far as how that works with UFOs coming out and the unidentified flying objects, and how Bob Dean became an author and speaker are really related to that, and we carry the torch forward. But I had no intention of that when I started writing about the Allied Command years ago. That was a different reality to me, and that just happens. It's like you go out and think you've got the only red car or the only red Mustang in the world, and then you see them everywhere. But you thought, that's the first one you'd ever saw, the first one you'd ever heard. When it bought the first one, of course, that's not a good analogy, is it? But you know what I'm saying? You think you came up with the idea, and they're everywhere. Matt, can you address that? Because I thought the Allied Command was strictly the group in space, the Supreme Allied Command. I didn't really know that we had one down here on the planet from World War II.
Yeah, it stems from World War II, and but now that magazine is going to cover all the shows that are done here at TJ Moore, online communications, American Communications.
Okay.
I mean,
So
it's not just going to be about space. Right now, it's only
Okay.
about space because I'm the only one doing the writing right now, and that's one of my things I'm into. So I'm willing to take anybody's articles and consider them for publication in the magazine, no problem.
Well, Barry Gauntz thought about joining us. He was in the UFO MUFON with me. He was one of the star investigators over in Kentucky. And, of course, Rick, and then we have Russ Brenniger. And Russ is an excellent historian with, you've got a copy of his book, don't you, Matt? Russell Brenniger, one of our friends.
Yeah, I haven't finished reading it. It's an awful, intense book.
Very intense, very in-depth study in ufology, folks. Russell Brenniger, but he's in our Facebook groups, and we have all these social media groups, folks. They're free to be in there, you know that. Of course, a lot of people are concerned about Facebook, but most of us old people, the younger people, say we're here to. The older folks use it, and I guess we do. So that's how a lot of people find each other. And Ken, you're on there just about every day, aren't you, on Facebook?
On Facebook, I check in on it every day. I have to. We've got way over 5,000, and you get stuck right there. And I do my best to be as respectful of other people that contact and will have more information. I try to keep it up on my and let other people post things on my Facebook. And then you have to go through and clean up some of the crap that goes on there too. I hate to say that, but yeah, I'm like what I was just talking about. I would love to have people go ahead and contact me through the chat room of Facebook, and I'll do my best to answer back. And if I don't get it answered back the way you want, don't give up. Oops, I've got a little dog underneath here chewing my cables. Oops, it's only 10 weeks old. The baby German Shepherd, solid black, and we chose the name of Inky, and I'm sure people know who Inky is. The secret ancient name. If I can get this little monster up without him barking and yapping. Okay, that's my point at this point.
All right. Well, the fact that we're going to carry more in a written magazine will be of help. And then Tommy and Tina Bird have joined us on Tuesdays now to help keep up the UFO Association. But we're going to handle life source, again, the energy of all things. It always seems to creep in just about everything, although we don't want to deal with politics and religion. But Tony R. Elliott is into politics mainly and the weather, climate. And he's written quite a few books. He's in our Authors Book Club. But he's a big, he'll always be in the ACO. But he's always said he'll support me till I die. I don't know if that's good or bad. But at least he admits that we're here on the planet together. So
Yeah,
he says he'll stick with me. Yeah, Tony R. Elliott, folks, and Russell Brenniger, and Tina Bird, Tommy Hawwksblood, and Barry Gaunt, Art Greenfield. There's so many people out there, and so many have passed, that it has been a little heartfelt lately for me, and I have to admit, I'd like to know how we're supposed to stay up on this energy, and knowing that we still don't really know our origin. We only have our own inner feeling, our innermost soul, our innermost guidance from the inner self, or our inner soul, and we've covered that, and people say we get too deep and too spiritual, but so we'll have a day for that. But right now we're doing Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And we'll break them up into UFO Association on Tuesday, Thursday, and Ken. Ooh, what is that?
Yes.
We're gonna.
I'm listening.
Okay. With this being more with Ahmad, have you got articles? Is there anything that you particularly are involved in with the space, or when you go off to these events? Because you're a speaker at these UFO events. Now, Tommy's been to some. I haven't been to any of them. I've been to Mid-South Con and then the psychic events we have here in town, health and wellness. I work more integrative medicine and more with the mind than I do UFOs or ETs, but I'm known for the extraterrestrial because of my contacts, seeing them in New York and Birmingham, Alabama, and going to White Sands and telling a little bit of my story. But I don't know how to make this happen. So I guess you're going to say Allied Command, then it's going to be several things: science fiction, metaphysics, space travel, space advocates, UFO enthusiasts, everything, right? Origin, a little bit of everything.
I'm going to have to convince a few people who have contacted me, like I say, were concerned on taking away from what I've accomplished in my life before. And I don't think that's valid. I think what you are doing.
Well, I think you're referring to time travel and space jump, aren't you? Because it's very hard for people to understand the mindset. And Tommy could go into that a little bit, and I'm sure Mad could, because, folks, when we're talking about ourselves, we know that we have a mind. We know we have different levels of existence. And scientifically, we say beta, alpha, theta. Think about it. I'm talking in my beta. And my alpha, if your alpha waves are not your theta or your delta waves, but they're studied medically. And we even have sigma and tau. And tau is the one that they tend to put you to sleep and you're unconscious. They don't know where you go or how they do it, to be honest with you. And this is something in neuroscience, and the people that put you under, I don't know if all of y'all have been put under, but I know Tommy, when you and I have had our shoulders worked on, our necks worked on, and Ahmad Shirley, didn't you have your back or neck worked on? Let me start with Ahmad next. Ahmad, your body was worked on, wasn't it?
I've never had no operations. No, I was put in traction.
Really? Whoa! I thought you'd had the same, but you have broke your neck and back, right? Traction.
Yeah, I wouldn't let them operate.
Wow. Okay, well, so you haven't really been under, let them put you under with any type of chemical or medical, for medical reasons.
I've had several operations. I've had a few operations. Okay. Yeah. I've got a plate in my wrist.
What about anesthesia? I'm trying to get to the point that there's another part of us, like with anesthesia. Did you get put under?
Oh yeah, several times. I've had 3 operations on my one leg. I've had my appendix out. So at least 4 times, 5 times I've been put under.
So when you come back out, do you feel like you were just in black?
No,
or did you
I
know
was
where
off
you'd been?
doing stuff.